From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Friday, July the 29th, 2022. Clashes were reported today in the West Bank. The Times of Israel said IDF and border police officers responded to a violent protest near Ramallah, where hundreds of Palestinians set fire to tires and threw rocks at Israeli cars driving on the road. The Israeli forces used riot dispersal measures, including reportedly live fire. The Palestinian Authority Health Ministry said that a 16-year-old Palestinian teenager had been killed. There was no confirmation on this from the IDF. Last night, the IDF tweeted that a car with a number of armed assailants approached an IDF post near Nablus. After one of the suspects opened fire toward the post, our soldiers, the IDF tweeted, responded and neutralized the assailant. We then evacuated the suspect for medical attention. More now on the uproar over comments made this week by a member of the United Nations Human Rights Council's Commission of Inquiry on the Israel and Hamas war last summer, Milun Kothari. Former UN Human Rights Chief Navi Pillay, who led the commission, wrote a letter to UNHRC President Federico Villegas defending Kothari's remarks after some very strong criticism and outrage, claiming the remarks were deliberately taken out of context, including, she wrote, that Kothari was deliberately misquoted to imply that social media was controlled by the Jewish lobby. Kothari's quote in question, which we reported to you about yesterday, was in response to backlash from the U.S. about the anti-Israel bias of the commission. Kothari said, "We are very disheartened by the social media that is controlled largely by, whether it is the Jewish lobby or specific NGOs. The quote then goes on to say, "A lot of money is being thrown into trying to discredit us. But the important thing is our mandate is based on international human rights and humanitarian standards, and that we are all seeking the truth." Well, JBS reached out to Director of United Nations and Intercommunal Affairs at B'nai B'rith International, David Michaels, to respond to Pillay's claim and whether having the full quote from Kothari still plays into the anti-Semitic trope of quote-unquote Jewish control. Michaels had this to say. Regarding the anti-Semitic nature of the comments, that is clear. By at once invoking a so-called Jewish lobby, absurdly attributing to it control over social media, and claiming that significant money is being committed by Jews to undermining human rights, Kothari has raised multiple tropes while disregarding legitimate criticism of bias on the part of the Commission and its 3 members. And by the way, later this afternoon, Villegas responded to Pillay's letter, writing that some of Kothari's comments could reasonably be interpreted as stigmatization of the Jewish people, which, he wrote, is at the heart of any expression of anti-Semitism. He said, "I would respectfully suggest that Commissioner Kothari consider the possibility of publicly clarifying his unfortunate comments and his intentions behind them." Remarks from Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban are causing outrage. During a speech in Romania on Saturday, Orban was talking about large numbers of non-Europeans, reportedly referring there to Muslims, coming to Europe, saying of Hungarians, "We are willing to mix with each other, but we don't want to become a mixed race." Later saying his comments were misunderstood and not about racism, but cultural differences. Well, Special Envoy to Monitor and Combat Anti-Semitism, Deborah Lipstadt, said she was deeply alarmed by the Hungarian Prime Minister's use of rhetoric that clearly evokes Nazi racial ideology. And the chairman of Yad Vashem, Dani Dayan, said Orban's statement is all too reminiscent of ideologies associated with the horrible atrocities of the Holocaust. The Holocaust teaches us, he said, that we must address such expressions swiftly and directly. Well, the 21st Maccabiah Games came to a close this week. Closing ceremonies held on Monday in Israel. This year's Maccabiah had over 10,000 athletes from 60 countries competing and included very special and inspiring moments, including Hala Mali, a Christian Arab Israeli from Nazareth, receiving her gold in karate as Israel's national anthem played. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS. For Friday, July the 29th, live Shabbat services are coming up at 6 o'clock from New York City's Central Synagogue, followed by Shabbat services from the Hampton Synagogue. At 8:30, American Jewish singer-musician Matisyahu in concert. At 9, it's the film Deadly Honor, which examines the phenomenon of honor killings. At 10, Israeli mentalist Lior Suchard performs, and at 10:30, a replay of services from the Hampton Synagogue, followed by a replay from Central. And coming up next, a look at this week's Torah Portion. And that's the JBS News Update for Friday, July the 29th, 2022. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay healthy, stay well, and Shabbat Shalom.